I blacked out. I was throwing up. My heart rate was 194, and I was paralyzed. I felt like I was paralyzed. Like, my hands were stuck like this. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't do anything for myself. And I couldn't breathe. My face was tingling all right here. My arms were tingling. And everything was tingling. And then I got 2 EpiPens on the side of my leg. And I think that's as much as I can really fit into this video. But if you want to learn more, you can add.
It would take 3 hours of film just to show all of the hundreds of testimonials that I have found in just a few hours of research. And you are welcome to pause this film on some of these and read them. I can't possibly fit them all in. But ask yourself this: the world total death rate for 2020 was exactly the same as it was in the previous 5 years, and even less in most cases. Yet the media and governments have told us there is some brand new deadly disease killing millions, which should mean the mortality rate should be millions higher than the previous years, not less, while simultaneously telling us that the seasonal flu, which kills millions worldwide each year, has miraculously disappeared completely for the first time in history. This new alleged virus has never been isolated or proven to either exist or cause illness, has the exact same 99.97% survival rate as the seasonal flu, is 80% asymptomatic, meaning you aren't sick, you feel fine and have no symptoms, and in the 20% of people who are told they do have this alleged virus through a PCR test that admittedly can't do any such thing as detect a virus, that 90% of the people who do die are 82 years old and already dying of 2.6 other terminal illnesses, usually respiratory disease and cancer. The symptoms of this alleged virus are a dry cough, fever, headache, and shortness of breath. Coincidentally, the exact same symptoms as the seasonal flu. Flu vaccines have been around for decades and have not stopped the flu. We still have it every year like clockwork, except last year and this year, of course. Are you so irrational and frightened by blatant media propaganda, so ignorant, blind, clueless, uninformed, or dare I say stupid, that in order to get on an airplane or be able to go back to bars and restaurants again, that you are willing to inject yourself and genetically modify your RNA to give yourself AIDS, Bell's palsy, paralysis, anaphylactic shock, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, heart attack, Guillain-Barré syndrome, acute encephalomyelitis, transverse myelitis, encephalitis, stroke, narcolepsy, cataplexy, myocarditis, pericarditis, permanent autoimmune disease, miscarriage, infertility, allergic reactions, thrombocytopenia, disseminated intravascular coagulation, venous thromboembolism, arthritis and joint pain, Kawasaki disease, multi-system inflammatory disease, and possibly death? Well, are you? Darwin has no shortage of awards for you, if so. Despite less than 1% of people reporting hundreds of thousands of COVID's vaccine adverse reactions already on VAERS and doubling weekly, the Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Reuters-controlled media is saying nonsense like 29 COVID-19 vaccine recipients had serious allergic reactions, or with nearly 5 million Americans vaccinated, just 29 have had confirmed allergic reactions. If your reality comes from the television, you have just seen that you are not living in reality. of course, we have people like Stanley Johnson, author of Life Without Birth, who wrote, "If the number of new births cannot be reduced, the number of deaths each year must increase until the next growth of the world's population is cut down to a more manageable number. This business of an increase in the death rate is not, of course, attractive. The recipes, meaning man-made, include thermonuclear war, global famine, plague, meaning injected virus pandemic, and a newly discovered horror called eco-catastrophe, or climate change. You might know his son, Boris Johnson, the current UK Tory Prime Minister, whose own website still boasts a self-penned October 2007 article called Global Population Control, about which he told The Telegraph that same month the world's population is now 6.7 billion, roughly double what it was when I was born. If I live to be in my mid-80s, then it will have trebled. I simply cannot understand why no one discusses this impending calamity, and why no statesmen have the guts to treat the issue with the seriousness it deserves." Now, of course, the same statesman who wants depopulation suddenly wants everyone to roll up their sleeve and take a jab to save lives, to stop as much of the plague depopulation as possible. What a guy, but Daddy wouldn't approve. More curious is this alleged amendment to a Treasury memorandum circulated to ministers in October 2019, alleging to have been obtained through the UK Freedom of Information Act. While there are and should be doubts as to whether or not this document is legitimate, and I am definitely suspicious that it might be photoshopped, as only an idiot would admit treason and then declassify it to a member of the public, so let's just assume it's probably fake. The point is, whoever wrote it or doctored it has summed up beautifully what is really going on right now under the guise of this fake pandemic. Damage to the wider economy is only achievable by imposing continuing measures to prevent trading amongst the commerce and service industries as a whole, regardless of the size of organization. It is likely that strike action and more likely general public disorder will occur, which the governments would struggle to crack down on without the necessary financial sweeteners, including generous benefit packages as proposed in Section 3A and 4 of the Memorandum Emergency Financial Infrastructure. Any such disorder will be discouraged by a public health campaign that will bring on board a mixture of health information, analysis, and data presented by government and independent institutions. All ministers will be complicit in the publication of the health directives using public and private media organizations. The names of the considered independent institutions are outlined in Section 11B and 11C of the memorandum. The proposed media organizations are outlined in Section 11E.
Okay, let's end with this one, and that is the Influenza Preparedness Stakeholder Conference on the centenary of the 1918 pandemic, and this took place in January 2019. It was run by Chatham House, which is the Royal Institute for International Affairs, and there were all kinds of people at this. So I'm going to show a little bit of video here of Mark van Ranst, who's the Belgian, or was the Belgian flu commissioner, and he was talking about the importance of the use of the media in pushing forward a narrative when it comes to this kind of public health issue. And remember, this was over a year before we started to see exactly the things he was talking about happening in real life, so to speak. So have a listen to this.
I was asked to tell you about my experiences being the crisis manager, the flu commissioner for Belgium, and highlighting the communication aspects there. And then you have one opportunity to do it right. I mean, day one is so important. In day one, you start your communication with the press, with the people, and you have to do it right. I mean, you have to go for one voice, one message. In Belgium, they chose to appoint a non-politician to do that. I mean, I have no party affiliations, and that makes things a little bit, at that time at least, a little bit easier, because you're not attacked politically, majority, minority. That doesn't come into play, and that was a huge advantage. The second advantage is that you can play in Brussels the complete naive guy and get a lot more done than you would otherwise be able to do. You have to be omnipresent that first day or the first days, so that you attract the media attention. You make an agreement with them that you will tell them all, and if they call, you will pick up the phone. When you do that, then you can profit from these early days to get complete carpet coverage of the field, and they're not going to search for alternative voices there. And if you do that, that makes things a lot easier. And then you have to say, okay, well, we will have H1N1 deaths. Of course, that would be unavoidable. I used there Sir Donaldson's quote, where he said that in the UK, by the peak of the epidemic, 40 people would die per day at the end of the summer. So 62 at that time million people in the UK, 40 deaths a day. I worked it out for Belgium. That would be 7 deaths a day at the peak of the epidemic. I used that in the media. 7 Belgian flu deaths per day at the peak of the epidemic would be realistic. That is true in every year, even interpandemically. That is very, very conservative. However, talking about fatalities is important, because when you say that, people say, wow, what do you mean? People die because of influenza? That is true in every year, even interpandemically. That is very, very conservative. However, talking about fatalities is important, because when you say that, people say, wow, what do you mean? People die because of influenza? And that was a necessary step to take. And then, of course, a couple of days later, you had the first H1N1 death in the country, and the scene was set and it was already talked about.
Sound familiar? Now you know why the seasonal flu has disappeared the exact same year this new alleged virus comes on the scene. Mark just told you, this isn't the first time they've done this scam. So what can we do about all of this? Part 4, the solution, a convenient truth. For starters, if you truly believe the world is overpopulated, by all means, voluntarily roll up your sleeve and take one for the team and the planet. Your body, your choice. But stop gaslighting those who understand that poison is not the cure for poison. Their body, their choice. They are anti-vaxxers for the same reason people don't pet angry rattlesnakes. Stop supporting forced medical tyranny. If you want to stop humans being hooked up to the cloud like livestock, don't let them shove nanodust computers into your brain barrier with a nasal swab, and don't download their bullshit contact tracer apps. Educate yourself. The UN Agenda 21 depopulation agenda cannot be successfully carried out once the people of the world are no longer ignorant of these truths. Germ theory is still a theory and not a fact after 230 years, because viruses have never to this day been isolated, proven to exist, or proven to be the cause of any illness. All of the major diseases have been attributed to a combination of acidic blood pH due to mental stress releasing fight-or-flight hormones and a deficiency in cellular tissue salts and vitamins. Viruses are nothing more than exosomes and pleomorphic bacterial phages, janitors made inside of your own body, by your own body, to clean out all toxins and damaged tissue resulting from all non-self poisons, proteins, and genetic material that enter into your body. You do not catch sickness or disease.